Hey everybody, welcome to Do You Believe on Paranormal Zone TV. I want to thank you all so much for joining us tonight. And those who may be new to the show, if you would please subscribe, I'd appreciate it. And please don't forget to give the show a like, and you're going to love the show. So I expect lots of likes. Now tonight we are welcoming back Reverend Bill Bean. I can't. I think this is the fifth show with Bill. I'm gonna have to make a playlist for Bill. He's been on the show so many times. So we're gonna welcome back Bill to the show. Now let me tell you a little bit about Bill. Bill Bean is a spiritual. He's known as the spiritual warrior. He's an exorcist, a deliverance minister. He is the author of Dark Force: The Connection, Stranger Than Fiction, and Dark Force Revisited. And I think I may have missed a couple of books. Bill will clue me in after. His website is, hold on for a second. Let me show you a picture of Bill. His website is www.billbean.net. Now tonight, Bill Bean's latest book, The Dark Force Revisited, it describes how terrible and tragic his life once was. He then takes the reader through the miraculous transformation that took place in his life and how God transformed him from victim to victor. And Bill has appeared on numerous TV shows and radio. He's been on Lifetime Movie Network, the Discovery Channel's A Haunting. Hold on. The Haunting series, Sci-Fi Channel, Travel Channel, Destination America, Animal Planet, Gaiam TV, Coast to Coast Radio, numerous times, Beyond Belief, Cornerstone TV, Dead Files, LMN series, I Was Possessed, and the list goes on, plus Paranormal Zone TV, and many, many more. So tonight, Bill's going to be talking about his brand new book, Dark Force Revisited. That's the latest book that's been published. The book is a 10th anniversary edition of the original Dark Force. And this version actually goes into more detail than the original Dark Force. It goes more into detail of supernatural experiences that had not been previously talked about. He's also added a bonus chapter which talks about Bill's life after leaving the house. Bill will also discuss his latest cases, including the possessed boy in San Francisco, which I can't wait to hear, and the deliverance and the clearing in San Diego, Philadelphia, Dayton, and Dayton, Ohio. So with that, everyone, let's welcome Bill to the show. Hey, Bill, thanks so much for joining us.
Oh, it's great to be back on with you, Norene. Thank you for always having me on.
Oh, always, always. So, Bill, let's talk about your book. Why did you write this second book?
Well, it's like all of them. This is the sixth book that I've written, and all of them, I have to say, God really put it on my spirit to do it. And it was something that I felt God had wanted me to do for a while, and I'm just so busy. I truly am. I mean, it's just nonstop. There are so many people that need help, and I praise God for working through me to help people all over this country and in other countries also. And but yet, I knew that it was something that God wanted me to do. So I had a little window of opportunity to really sit down and dig into this and add some content, add that bonus chapter. And it was really a rewrite anyway, Noreen, because when I had written the original Dark Force, it was very, very difficult for me to do that. Number one, it was difficult because of my lack of formal education. That was the first thing, and that held me back for many, many years. As I've said before, with the untimely passings of my grandmother and then my mother 2 months and 2 days later, it was devastating to me. They were the two closest people to me in my life at that time, and I had quit school in the 8th grade and lied about my age and went to work for a construction company, and I had to grow up very, very fast and very hard as well. I grew up on the streets. I hung out with the worst of the worst people. I drank, I did drugs, I was violent, you name it. I mean, I very easily could have ended up dead or in prison, and as a matter of fact, back then. But God truly did have a plan for my life, and I think before I even came into this world, He had this plan to work through me to be this spiritual warrior for Him, and I praise Him for it. So with all of that said, I had this little window of opportunity to really sit down and think about it. As I stated, it was difficult for me to write the first version, so that was number one. And number two, it was very difficult for me in the sense that I had to relive all of that, and it was traumatic for me. And at that point in time, when I had written the original Dark Force, I was not the spiritual warrior. I was still in transition, and I had decided to make God first in my life, but it was 2 steps forward and 3 steps backwards, so it was a transition. One, I'm happy to tell you now that, God really did transform my life from victim to victor, and I can never thank Him and praise Him enough for that. So this time, after all the other books that I've written, since the original Dark Force, it was much easier for me to sit down this time and really place myself there and be more accurate in the telling of the story, because when a person suffers high trauma, high levels of trauma, it is very difficult to talk about it, and it is certainly very difficult to sit down and try and write a book and step back into those things. So that was a dilemma for me the first time around, because it was very troubling to my spirit. Again, this is traumatic stuff that you're revisiting, but it was also part of a purging process that was necessary in order for me to truly be able to move forward in my life. So it was a blessing. But again, the second time around, sitting down, writing Dark Force Revisited, I had it done, I think, in 2, maybe less than 3 weeks. It was very, very easy for me to do compared to the first time. And I also had clarity of mind that I didn't have the first time. And the most important thing that I had was the power of God on me, around me, behind me, and within me to help me, really propelling me forward in the project, where I didn't have any more fear or anxiety or trauma, no more of those types of scars. Mm-hmm. So it was much easier to write. It flowed very nicely, and I felt that it was important. And I think the most important reason that I wrote it, obviously, is that I felt God put it on my spirit to do so, but also for the people that are currently suffering now. I wanted to give those people something that they could read and take in and say, wow, this is, I can relate to what this guy's saying, because I'm suffering in this way, or I have suffered in this way. And the good news is, Norene, that yes, it's a very, very disturbing story. But here I am, triumphant by the power of God, and I thank Him and praise Him for that. So if God would do this for me, that's the ultimate message of this book, is that no matter how bad it is, no matter how terribly, horribly we're suffering, God can turn that around, and He can make a transformation in our lives. And He's done it for me, and He will do it for anyone who truly wants to make God first in their life. So that's the ultimate, overall, the most important message of this entire book.
Okay. Do you want to take us back to 1971 when you suffered your first demonic attack?
Yeah. And, my family and I moved into the house in 1970, and it was located at the bottom of a downhill cul-de-sac. And I have to say this before I get into the 1971 attack. I was 4 years old, and, in the Discovery Channel version of the story, and I'm very grateful to A Haunting, New Dominion Pictures, Discovery, and the other channels that have aired this and continue to air it to this day. Very grateful to them for that. But they took some liberties as far as changing some things around in the story. So they may have presented me as like 12 years old or something when I first moved into the house. But the fact of the matter is that I was 4 years old. My sister was 13. And I recall us standing together. And again, like I just said, the house was located at the bottom of a downhill cul-de-sac with a very large and deep ravine behind it. It was semi-dilapidated. sister and I, we're standing in front of the house, and we both had this just feeling of dread. We were scared, couldn't understand why, but that is the type of, I guess, energy that the house was giving off. And for those who don't know this, all life operates on frequency and vibration. So if we are on high frequency, high vibration, life is good, life is positive, we are moving forward. But if we are on low, life is a challenge, to say the least. And that goes for not only people, but places and things as well. There are such things as cursed lands and cursed homes and cursed objects and things of that nature, which gives off that low frequency and low vibration. And that's where the devil and his demons are, and that's where they want us to be. So, looking back on this from the very beginning, we could feel that negative energy coming from the home and probably the land as well, because that was just one home of many that were affected by evil in the area. There are people that could attest to this. I still get contacted by people on a regular basis from that area telling me what they went through. I have some good friends, Rudy and Louise, that I've recently, and Rudy was a childhood friend of mine, and I've reconnected with him, and his wife Louise are wonderful people, and God has worked through me to help them. But Rudy could tell you that, he suffered a lot of supernatural, paranormal, evil, demonic experiences in the area in his childhood, and he's one of many. So I feel, Norene, that looking back on this whole picture and the bigger picture, there are several reasons why this took place. One is that many, many, many years ago, maybe 100 years ago, there were two family members that conjured up these demonic forces. And so that's the first thing. So they came in and created havoc with the family for decades. And just tragedy after tragedy, hardship after hardship. This is part of family bloodline curses. So that's one thing. And then the area itself. So I feel that those demonic forces, the original demonic forces that were conjured up by those family members, actually led my parents to that home and to that area where evil was already manifest. It was already present and manifested in the home. It was already present and manifest in the area. And this is why it was so severe for my family and I. So we were in the middle of this perfect storm of evil, which truly greatly contributed to the destruction of my family. So I had to say that before we went into the 1971 incident. And I was 5 years old, 1971. My sister had suffered, she was the first to have a physical encounter, and that took place in late 1970. So it was like, sort of in the beginning, like my sister's account, sort of, in which I'm in my bed. Now I'll give a quick layout of the house before I start describing this. So you would come in through the front door. You would come into the living room, and the house was very dark. It had dark brown paneling on the walls, almost black. So it was very dark in the house. And you would, if you went straight through, you'd go straight into the dining room, which the back door was off of that. Off to the right was a small galley-style kitchen. But if you went about midway, past the living room, on the left was a room divider, which was a bookcase. And then you would make a right down a long hallway, which had this hard tile floor. And it was just a long and dark walk down that hallway. My brother and I shared the first room on the right. My parents shared the second room on the right. And then my sister had the last room on the left. And interestingly enough, that bedroom is where I believe the main portal was located. And there were many portals in this house, above the house, and I think below the house as well. And the main portal in that home was in my sister's bedroom. And that is also the room that was always cold, even on the warmest of summer days. And it's also the room where the door would open and slam for many repetitions at a time. So now, that said, 1971. I'm 5 years old. I'm in my bed asleep. My bed was located closest to the door, to the hallway. And like my sister's encounter, something woke me from my sleep. And I would imagine that it was late at night, middle of the night. And I couldn't see anyone or anything there. But I knew something was there. And so I got scared. And I get out of my bed, and this is on the left side of my bed. I'm getting up, get out of my bed, and then I'm grabbed by a tremendous force. Grab me by my shoulders and slam me back onto the bed, pinning me to the bed. And you know, Norene, I've given well over 2,000 interviews in my career. And to this day, this is high trauma that I'm describing right now. It's easier to talk about, but still, when I really focus on this, it is something that I truly can't describe in words, the level of fear and trauma that I was in at this point. So this unseen force has got me pinned to the bed. Wow. I felt like I was going to die. I felt like my heart was literally going to jump out of my body. I tried to scream for my parents. My mouth wouldn't work. I felt paralyzed. And the only thing that seemed to move or work were my eyes. And this horrific experience, and many bad things happened during the course of this, but it felt like it lasted for hours. I'm sure it only lasted for several minutes, but it felt like several hours to me. And as this is taking place, another presence comes into the room. This, I guess you call it ectoplasm. This mist is forming at the foot of my bed. And this beautiful angelic looking lady appears at the foot of my bed, and she's smiling and gazing at me. And all of a sudden, with the appearance of this, again, I have to believe that it was an angel, all the horrible things that were happening to me suddenly stopped. And she just continued to stand there and smile and gaze at me, and I just felt so much love and peace and comfort from this being. And then all of a sudden, she turns to her left, and she floats right up through the ceiling.
And you didn't recognize this entity. It wasn't a relative or anything.
I did recognize the entity. So I jump up out of bed after she disappears, and I run into my parents' room. You know, I wake them up. I tell them what has happened. My dad's not pleased that I have, awakened them in the middle of the night. My mother goes back with me to the bed to try and get me to calm down. And the most amazing thing about this, Norene, is that angelic entity looked exactly like my mother. And I was not the only one to see her. She actually helped my own mother on several occasions when she was being physically attacked. And so, can you imagine, number one, seeing something like that of your mother, and it's not your mother, but it looks just like your mother. And then number two, your own mother having these experiences and then having this entity, this angelic being coming that looks just like her to help her. It's just, I don't have any words for it, but, and my mom and I were not the only one to have experiences with her. Most of the family did, and some friends as well, because, for the longest time, my mother didn't want me to talk about this, or my brother or sister. She didn't want us to talk about this with anybody. She tried to keep this, very quiet. She was very embarrassed and ashamed by it. And, but towards the end, we lived there from 1970 to 1980. I don't know how, but we did. And towards the end, I did start telling some friends, and they came down and had their own experiences. But it was that's just one of so many things. If I were to list everything that happened there, we'd be here all night.
Oh, my God. Okay, now, I know you know a lot of paranormal people, but I don't know what the story is behind with you seeing a spirit that looks exactly like somebody that's still alive. Do you know what that is?
I don't think anybody does, but my best guess on it would be that God saw the high level of trauma. Noreen, I'm telling you truly, I felt like I was going to die. That's how frightened I was, how stressed I was. My heart, again, just literally, I felt like it was jumping out of my body.
Oh my goodness.
So perhaps God, knowing that I may have been in a really bad physical state from this high level of fear and trauma that I was experiencing, perhaps sent an angel that would take the form of my mother to calm me down.
Oh my goodness. Yes, absolutely. That makes sense, Bill. That makes sense.
That's the only way I can surmise that.
Damn. All right, now, you want to describe the incident with the car in 1974?
Yeah, and that was another near-fatal day. I'll tell you, I've had many near-fatal experiences from childhood into my adult life, and each and every time God has been there to save me. And again, I can never thank Him and praise Him enough for that. But this incident took place 1974. My step-grandfather always came over every morning. He and his brother had a bakery. So this house is located in Glen Burnie, Maryland, and they had a bakery just outside of Baltimore in an area called Linthicum. And so they would, he'd finish up, he'd work all night and finish up in the morning and then come down and drop off baked goods to my mother, for us to have whatever it may be. And so he's leaving, and my dad and I walk out with him. So my dad walks out, with my father, and we walk him out to his car. So the year was 1974. He had a 1973 Chevy Impala. It looked brand new. So the car was, in perfect working order. And so I want the viewers and you to get a picture here, and I hope I can accurately describe it. So I've mentioned twice now, this will be the third time, that the house was located at the bottom of a downhill cul-de-sac. So you would come down to the house. If you're in a car, you're driving down, and the front of the car would be facing the house. And then to get out of there, you either back all the way up the street, or you back up a little bit and turn and go back up. So his vehicle was parked next to my dad's truck, which, if you're looking down there, would have been to our left of my dad's truck. So his vehicle was located next to my dad's truck, and it was kind of in front of the next door neighbor's fence, the portion which would have been the right side of their yard. So the car is sitting in front of that fenced area there. So we walk out with him. He gets in the vehicle, starts it up. My dad gives a couple of pats on the hood. Now I'm standing to my father's left. We're both standing in front of the car. And so he starts the vehicle up. My dad gives a couple of pats on the hood. He puts the vehicle in gear, and I don't know how God must have been working through my father on that day, because when he put the vehicle in reverse, he swears, and swore then, he's no longer with us, but he swore then that something put that car in drive and mashed his foot down on the accelerator. And I don't know, this had to be a miracle, another miracle from God, how my father got us out of the path of that car, which went right through where we were standing, right through the fence, and right through a block wall that was like a barbecue pit area for this home, this next door neighbor. And just no words. I mean, and my step-grandfather, he just couldn't believe it, and he just kept saying over and over, he just couldn't understand how that happened. And, he'd put the car in reverse, and yet something, puts it in drive and mashes his foot down on the accelerator. Wow. And so it was a near miss. We surely would have been, I believe that being run over like that, my dad and I both probably would have been killed on that day.
Oh, absolutely.
And so he ran right through where we were standing, and then through the fence and through that block wall. And he was not hurt, and that was miraculous in itself. But boy, was he So that was another, near miss and escape from death on that day.
Wow. Oh my goodness, Bill. Oh, that's pretty scary.
Yeah.
Now, Bill, I have pictures. So, do you want to talk about the pictures? Let me know when you want to show any of the pictures, because I have them in categories, okay?
Now I can't see them, so you just have to tell me what it is.
Yeah,
and I'll
yeah.
do my best to describe it.
I
from
will.
there.
But since you're in the beginning of your story, you're still young at this time. I'm not sure what place to put the pictures in with your story. But
yeah.
All right, so now tell us about the red orb coming through the 6x6 plate glass window. I don't have a picture of that, but I have a picture of a red orb in the living room, I guess around Christmas time.
Yeah, that's it. And the window is covered up by that drapery. So behind that drapery, which you would see me standing there, I believe that shot is of my mother, my younger brother, and myself. And I'm standing closest to that window, and that red orb is over my head. And that's exactly what came through that 6x6 plate glass window on that one evening in particular. That I believe it was, I want to say it was July 1978. And it came through. Now, this window doesn't open. This is a plate glass window. And so there's no opening this. And on this particular evening, this red orb thing comes through the plate glass window and rips down the drapery. But my dad had put, it was a very heavy curtain rod in the wall there, and he put bolts in there. So it was all anchored in with bolts and all this stuff. There's no way that something should be able to come through. Number one, nothing should be able to come through a plate glass window that doesn't open. And secondly, it should not be able to rip out. And that's exactly what happened, Norene. It not only ripped down the drapes, but it ripped the entire pole out of the wall, the bolts and everything, and came through. And it went all the way down past us. We had a little dog, little poodle at that time, named Fuzzy, little black poodle, that looked at this thing, followed it all the way down the hallway, and it disappeared at the end of the hall in a linen closet that was located at the end of the hall. And I believe that linen closet was part of the portal, the main portal that was in my sister's closet in that back room. And because there were other times that we saw entities go through and walk through that closet, and so again into that portal.
Wow. All right, so what about your dad being attacked by demons?
Yeah, and my dad, he was a rugged individual. He was a man's man. He was a tough guy. He was not afraid of anyone or anything, and he was very gifted in many ways, including physically. And he was a contractor. He worked construction all of his life, and his father had put he and his brother to work when they were young boys. So he was a tough guy, very skilled, but he suffered many attacks, and I believe was under attack from the very beginning in moving into the house, or not long after moving in. My mother was the first to have an experience right after moving in. But my dad, and he would not share this with us, but he did share it with my mother's mother, Dora Harvey. And he was having a lot of sightings of these manifestations of these entities. He was also seeing the angelic lady. But my brother shared a story with me that I never knew about. I didn't know about this story when I had written the original Dark Force, and now this is in Dark Force Revisited. He shared a story with me about a year ago, and it's still very difficult for my brother to talk about these things. He just suffered a lot of trauma as well, and it's very, very difficult for him to go there. And so I was shocked when he actually started mentioning this to me. He said, and my dad left us in 1975, so I was 9 years old when my dad left us. My brother, he was probably 6.5 was not there. I was over staying at my grandmother's and for the weekend. But he told me that one evening in 1975, before my dad left home, he came in a drunken stupor. And when he came in through the front door, my brother said that this unseen force grabbed him around his throat. Now, again, my father was built like a bull. He was a very stocky, muscular guy. He was short, but he was very stockily built and muscular. And so something grabbed him from around his throat and threw him through the closet doors there. So when you would open the front door coming into the living room, there was a coat closet right there, and it had those wooden sliding doors. And so, according to my brother, he said that this invisible force picked my father up by the throat and threw him through those sliding doors in the coat closet.
Oh my God. Now, this experience that he had with that entity, was he the only one that experienced that kind of viciousness? Did anybody else, did that happen to anyone else?
My mother suffered far worse, and I suffered as well. I suffered many attacks over the entire time of living there, from 71 until I would say probably 79. I suffered greatly with physical attacks, but my mother suffered far greater than any of us. She suffered more than any other person I've ever seen in my life, Norene. And it's a miracle in itself that she was able to even live as long as she did, because she was under so much stress and pressure. My parents were married in 1956, and my sister was born in 57. There was another child born in 63, which died under mysterious circumstances. That child was a male child, and he didn't live for very long, and there are differing accounts on what had actually taken place. And then it got to the point where to have very little family left anymore. But, family members just didn't want to talk about it anymore. But what I do know is that the child didn't live for very long. And representatives from Johns Hopkins Hospital came and retrieved the body for studies. So that's what I do know. But what the rest means, I don't know. And I was born in 66, and my brother was born in 69. But I would have loved to have known that whole story as to what actually had taken place with the child's birth and then, demise as well, and whatever took place there and how that happened, and why representatives from Johns Hopkins would want to come and retrieve the body for studies.
Did you ever have the death certificate?
No, but I tried to go through the records. I contacted Johns Hopkins and tried to go through the records, and they said that they don't keep records that old. And so that was the end of that.
Oh my God! They don't keep records that old. Wow.
That's what they told me.
There's no record of the birth or death or anything.
Not as far as I know.
Oh my goodness!
And the same thing happened when I tried to go investigate into my father's death, because not only were there tragedies with my mother and her mother, but my father was shot to death in 1987, and I tried to contact the police, in that area to look at the case files and all that, and they said, we don't have the records anymore, and that was it.
Oh, Bill. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so that's happened 2 times, but what I do know for certain is that there was a child born in 63, and that Johns Hopkins came and retrieved the body for studies, and I wish I knew more. I wish I could find out more. But that's all I know.
Oh, well, there was something there that they needed to do the whatever it is that they do on those bodies. The baby had something.
There's no question about it, Norene. And again, I talk about it in this book. I've talked about it in other books as well, because I have had a plethora of experiences in my life, paranormal, supernatural experiences that most people wouldn't even want to think about or have a nightmare about, and most people their minds could things have taken place, and it's all part of my journey. I couldn't be where I am now as a spiritual warrior for God without being there. It was part of a preparation process. But I've said this in other books. I talk about it in my previous book to this book, Stranger Than Fiction, that this is all interlinked. So the paranormal, supernatural, angelic, demonic thing, it's all interconnected. The UFO phenomena is connected to that. The Bigfoot phenomena is connected to that. All of these things, they are all interconnected. It is all paranormal, supernatural in nature. And so there was quite a bit of UFO, ET type of activity taking place as well the entire time that this was going on.
All in your neighborhood. Not only you, but the neighborhood as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when you saw these, like, UFOs in the sky, did anybody else see them?
Yeah, the first sighting that we had. Now, here's something interesting, and you may have this picture. Two pictures I'm going to mention right now, and you may have them both. One was taken in 1974. There's probably only 3 photos that I know of that are happy family photos. 3 photos in existence that I know of that I was actually a part of with my family, where it was everybody smiling and happy. This particular photo that I'm describing was taken in 1974. And in the photograph, you see the Bean family there.
Okay, wait a minute, Okay, go ahead. I have several.
You see it?
Well, I have... Is this the one with Mom Harvey, 1974, note the face in the door behind my dad?
Yes.
Okay, I'll show that.
So,
go ahead.
Yeah, so that photo was taken, and if you look, you see that gigantic face in the door, in front of the door, behind my dad, over his left shoulder. But also take note, look at the picture on the wall. It's a depiction of a peacock. Do you see that on the wall there?
Yeah.
Look in the center of that, and look at the alien head and face in that, right in the center.
Oh boy. All right, hold
see
on.
it?
Yeah, hold on. Let me duplicate this and enlarge it. Hold on for a second. I hope I don't screw this up. All right, let me go over to the picture. So this is, oh my God. Hold on. Oh my God. Hold on. I'm going to show them. Oh, save. Okay, there we go. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I see the eyes, the nose, the oval face.
Yeah, and it almost looks like some kind of snake thing or something on the forehead there of it. See it? It looks like there's something on the head of it, on the face there. You know, you see the alien face and just look like the forehead area. It looks like something coming off of that. And so, again, this is 1974.
Wow.
So then, the next photo that I'm going to describe is 1975.
Okay.
And you probably have this photograph. My mother's on the telephone.
Oh, yeah. I got, yep.
Yeah.
I got it. Alien face. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And my dad had knocked, that was a closet there. My dad had knocked that out and made a bar. So my mother's standing behind that bar. She's on the telephone. And standing beside her, there are 2 little, what looks like the little gray alien guys. One is standing to her right, and you can see the flash of the camera coming off of its head. And the other one, its face is in the mirror. So there's a large rectangular mirror behind my mother, and there's an oval-shaped mirror to her left. And you see the large alien-looking face in that mirror.
Oh, yeah.
It's unmistakable.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. And actually, I see another one above her head. I actually can see something else very strange looking above her head. It's got big,
Yeah,
wide...
I know what you're talking about. Yeah. You're right. I've noticed it, too.
Oh, my God. That is creepy. That picture is really creepy.
Yeah, and I mean, it is plain as day. There's no... I don't know how anybody could say, oh, well, no, I really can't see that. It's right there. It's just like you'd be looking at a person.
Yeah, and right by her neck, it's in the background, but it's by her neck. There's looks like it's a face. Now
Isn't that amazing?
and I don't know if that's an alien or a man's face.
I'll have to look at it real good again, and God only knows. But this again confirms what I'm saying, that all of this is tied together. Certainly, it was in our case, and so you have those two pictures, and then my mother would often remark about in the evenings after dinner, she's doing dishes at the sink, and there's a window in front of her that you can look at the ravine. So you're seeing the backyard and then the ravine beyond the backyard. And many times she remarked that she saw these blue lights descending in the ravine as she's looking out the window doing the dishes. And so then in 1977, my dad had come back home for a visit. And so he's there, we're watching TV. All of a sudden the power goes out. So he lights his lighter, they're lighting candles and all this stuff. And then he goes outside. He's thinking that a vehicle struck a utility pole and that's what's killed the power. And so he comes racing back in through the back door, collects us, tells us to come out with him in the backyard. And this object was hovering, I'd say probably 40 yards from our back door. So it's in the ravine, it's hovering over a utility pole. And interestingly enough, Norene, there was like one of those little power substations things that was located. So if you went beyond our backyard and jumped the fence there and went down into the ravine, just to the right was this little power substation thing. And the UFO was hovering above that and over this utility pole. And so it was white. It was a brilliant white color. It was the typical disc-looking, I said mushroom-shaped type of thing. But it had something underneath of it. That's why I said mushroom type of looking object. But I'm sure it was a disc object, but it had something under it. And it was silently hovering. And you would see it gently sway and wobble. Every once in a while you would see a sway and a wobble out of it. And we were standing there watching that thing, and then other families came out in their yards and they were seeing it as well. So there were quite a few people that, and this was a story that went, I believe it made the local newspapers, and a lot of people saw this, so it just wasn't us. I mean, there's a lot of other families out in their yards seeing it as well.
1977?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, the glow?
It hovered out there for close to an hour, and then it slowly just started to gain in altitude, and then it headed away to the north, and as it was heading away, then the power came back on in all the homes.
Wow. Bill, what about the other picture, the cylinder?
Oh, yeah, that was taken in 2001. I took that photograph outside of Baltimore in an area called Reisterstown, Maryland. And this is broad daylight. And so, now here's another amazing thing, Norene. With that photo and some of these other photographs, I didn't see that. But yet, I had this, and I know it comes from God. It's just this connection or ability or something to know when something is there, even though I can't see it. I knew it was there. And so I felt like I carried a camera with me everywhere I went. And so I felt like I needed to take a picture of that area of the sky, and boy, oh boy, I mean, at that precise moment, I'm taking the photograph, and there it is. And I've done this before. Another time was near the BWI airport area, the Baltimore-Washington International Airport. They have an observation area. It's like a park. And I met with a MUFON investigator, Alexander Zekas from Virginia. He heard about me and heard about what was going on. He wanted to meet me and get my story. And he actually wrote about me in one of his books, Synchronistic Adventures. And so I'm telling him everything. So then, now this is a summer day. It was hot. It was probably, 85, 90 degrees. It was hot. beautiful blue sky. And I'd say this was probably around the same time frame as that cylinder. Maybe a little, maybe 98, 99, somewhere in there. It was sort of like in the same time frame. Beautiful day, not a cloud in the sky. And all of a sudden, I get what I believe is a message saying, point the camera at this part of the sky. Now, there's nothing there. This is a beautiful, not a cloud in the sky, beautiful day. And so I said to him, I said, look, I'm pointing my camera right over here. He says, why? I said, because I know something's there. And he said, I don't see anything at all. I said, okay, you point your camera and we'll take the picture at the same time and let's see what we get. We did this and we both got the same disc object that was right where I pointed, right where I said, take the picture here, and there it was. And he was astounded by that. And it happened again in 2008 in an area called Mentone, Alabama. This is in the mountains in Alabama. I was going down there to make an appearance, and I had my close friend Bob with me, and I said to him, same thing. I said, and it was another similar day, beautiful day. It wasn't as hot, but no clouds in the sky. And I said to him, I said, you see that area there in the sky right there? He says, yeah. I said, take a photo there. He said, why? I said, I just feel like something is there. And he said, I don't see anything. He says, will you go over and stand where you think that it's at, and I'll take the picture. I said, okay. So I went over in front of him, and it's like this tree line, and I'm standing there, and he takes the picture, and sure enough, this, and I call it divine, it was this white circular type of object that was right above me, right in the area that I said that it was, and he was astounded by that.
Yeah.
And happened another time in Knoxville, Tennessee, with another friend by the name of Dave, that I instructed him to take a picture in the sky, and it was right over as we entered into Knoxville, so you could see the Knoxville sign on the left, and would have been on our right, and sure enough, he took the picture, and it was this silver object that had a hole in the center.
Oh. Yeah.
And just absolutely amazing. So this has happened several times, many times, but yet God will give me these messages, and it's a knowing, and it comes from what I believe to be holy discernment. So I truly, Norene, make God first in my life, and always will. Am I perfect? No, I don't claim to be, but I do the best, and I certainly try to be the best that I can be each and every day of my life, and I truly have a connection with God that is like this. And so I believe in turn God gives me a knowing of things and a holy discernment, and so again I'm very grateful to God for that and thankful. But we could talk all night long about the different types of experiences, whatever area it may be in. I have had them, and I know the reason is to be who I am in helping other people, so I can relate. So if somebody's having, a situation and whatever it may be, and there's clients at times that are having the demonic problems, but they're also having problems with UFOs and sometimes even Bigfoot. And so these things are very much connected. And so for me, in having these types of experience and having had them, it's invaluable because the people can relate to me and I can relate to them, so God can work through me to help them.
Bill, tell us about your mother's attacks.
Yeah, and again, even going back this time and writing this new version and new edition of the book, that was the most difficult part to write about again, because my mother was a wonderful woman. She was a great mom. But boy, did she ever suffer. And so, again, my parents were married in 56. My sister was born in 57. And by all accounts, they were happy and doing well. But mother being attacked in that way. You know, he was a man that was used to being in control of every situation. And I have to believe, with him being manhandled like that, and then, you know, seeing those apparitions and everything that he was experiencing, I think it shook him to his core. And my parents were social drinkers. And in the beginning, they would have these family parties and gatherings. You know, you did that back in the 70s, and those were joyous occasions. But the more this intensified, it changed him. And I think that he was escaping reality through alcohol. So, you know, they were social drinkers in the beginning, but then with all this taking place, his drinking began to escalate. And he eventually turned into a raging alcoholic who physically abused my mother many, many times between the years of 1973 and 1975. You know, he nearly killed her on several occasions. And so my mother was suffering physical beatings at my dad's hands. And also, she was very ill the entire time we lived in the house. It started with high blood pressure, which led to strokes, which ultimately led to kidney failure.
Oh,
and
no.
So she was suffering, you know, greatly in that way as well. So then after my dad leaves in 75, she didn't get a break because she came under regular physical attack from several demonic entities over the years. And it was horrible, Norene. She had cuts, bruises, scratches, bite marks, and everything else on her long after my dad had left us. And it had gotten to the point to where she couldn't even sleep in her bed anymore. She eventually had to start sleeping in with us. And that's how bad it was. And I can't tell you how difficult it was to write about it the first time. And again, that was the most difficult part, going back this time to sit down and write about. But it was horrific. And then I found out that she was actually suffering those experiences up until her untimely death in 1981. She died at the age of 44 from a cerebral hemorrhage. And that was 2 months and 2 days after my beloved grandmother, Dora Harvey, died from a sudden series of heart attacks at the age of 64. And I have to tell you, I honest to God believe that both of those deaths, and even more, because there's been many family tragedies, you know, throughout my family on both sides, I have to tell you that I believe those two in particular, for sure, those demons were involved in that. Because I'm not saying that they directly killed them, but what I am saying is the amount of stress and pressure that was taking place at that time was off the charts. Because when my dad left us in 1975, he had lost his business. He lost everything because his drinking had escalated to the point to where he stopped going to work. And he had a crew of people, you know, guys that he had to pay, and, you know, they're showing up doing the work. Well, the quality of work is declining now because my dad's not there to oversee that. And so then they're not getting paid. The whole thing was just a house of cards. So that was a lot of stress and pressure in itself. My dad leaves. He moves to Florida. Didn't leave us any money. There was no money to leave. My mother was very ill. She couldn't work. So she had to go on welfare, social services. It was devastating to her and for her. She never thought that she'd be in an unfortunate position like that to, you know, to have to go on social services. And so my grandmother tried to help as best as she could, but she didn't make much money. She didn't have much, and she gave what she could. But it was a titanic struggle just to live financially. And then when you couple that with the severity of demonic attack that was taking place on a regular basis, it's unfathomable that she was able to survive for as long as she did.
How long did you live in the house?
We lived in the house from 1970 to 1980. How we did it, I have no idea. And, I really didn't hit me until I sat down writing the first version all those years ago, and I thought, how in the world did we do it? How could we endure this for so long? But I have to tell you, the answer is, and I said in the book, I equated it to us being like prisoners in a POW camp. You get so worn down and so beaten down after a while that you come to expect it, and you start to take it in stride. And that was happening to us, but also each and every one of us were going through demonic oppression at various times while living there. So we were under total control from these entities.
Well, what was happening to your sister and your other brother?
Well, my sister, she again was the first to have an experience in the house, and that took place in 1970, not that long after moving in. And like what I described, she was awakened in the middle of the night in her bed. She got frightened. She didn't see anyone or anything there, but she knew something was there. And she got frightened, and she was going to get up and get my parents, and something grabbed her leg, and she was able to let out a scream, and she screamed, and that woke my parents up, and they came running into the room, turned the light on. They didn't see anyone or anything there. However, there were red marks on her leg where she said something had grabbed her leg. And so that was the beginning, and my sister never again felt comfortable in the house. She stated in the haunting episode that she always felt like she was being followed and watched, and so she ended up running away. She ended up marrying a young man in the neighborhood, and they ran away and got married. And so she was able to escape a lot of the things that took place in the house. However, she had her own set of issues that she endured as well over the years. So she fully, was not removed or unscathed from the evil that was taking place. And as a matter of fact, she had gotten pregnant and nearly had died because the child, which was a male child, had died inside of her.
Oh my God.
And it poisoned her system. So not only did the child die, but she almost died as well. And so my brother was so young, but he had many experiences, and he told me, the most vivid, which was seeing my dad attack like that. And also another experience, and it's very difficult for my brother to talk about these things because he still is not there yet as far as letting go of some of the things and all the trauma that had taken place. It's very difficult for him, so he's very closed. He's a good man, and he's a productive man, and I praise God for that, but he still has issues as far as not wanting to deal with these things that had taken place. But another vivid memory that he has is he had stayed home from school one day, and I want to say that it was probably 1978, somewhere in that area, and he's in our bedroom. Again, he and I shared the first bedroom on the right. My mother's in her room, and she was ironing clothes. Mm-hmm. And he's laying on the bed. They hear the water faucets turn on. Now, this happened on a regular basis, Norene, where the faucets would turn on in the bathroom and kitchen, and they would turn on with such force. The water pressure coming out was far exceeding what it should have been when these events would happen. And the water would come out with such force that it would overflow the sink and then saturate the rug area and everything around the sink area. So on this day, the water faucet in the bathroom comes on by itself, and my mother and brother both react to it, and they are coming out of their rooms, and all of a sudden they hear this crash, and it's the sound of breaking glass. And so my mother turns off the faucet. They quickly advance up the hallway, make a right towards the back door where they heard the crash. And so the back door, it was, a regular wooden door, heavy wooden door, but then in front of that was a storm door. And so on that day, the back door was open, and the storm door had plate glass in the bottom and a screen on top of that. And so they advance up the hallway, they make a right through the dining room, and they're looking at the back door now, the storm door, and something had blown that glass out from the inside. From the inside out, there was glass laying all over the back porch. And so that was another vivid memory that my brother had.
Wow. Oh, man, Bill. Wow.
And, I don't talk about these things, in all these interviews that I give, it's not that I don't want to talk about them, but it's just I don't often have a chance to talk about these things like we've talked about in depth in the way that we have. So this is really good for people that follow me and listen to my interviews. They're hearing things now that they don't usually hear.
Right. So you had visions before the deaths of your mother and grandmother. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I sure did, and I'll never forget that either. And I was staying at my grandmother's house. I stayed there, it seemed like every weekend. I was so close with my mother's mother, and we all were. And I can recall having 4 and 5 phone calls with her a day and or night. I mean, that's just, we were that close with her. And so staying at her house on this particular night, and she'd make up a little bed for me on the floor. And she and my step-grandfather, they shared a 1-bedroom apartment. And I'm sleeping, and then something wakes me from my sleep. And it was this vision. I'd never seen anything like this before in my life. It was like this, so the closet door's open, and I'm looking now at the back part of the closet wall, which is now illuminated, and I'm seeing like this gold wheel. I mean, it almost looked like Hebrew or something, the type of writing on the wheel. And I guess it was like a portal or Stargate or whatever you want to call it, because, it was rotating around, and in the center is like the screen. And I'm seeing horrific things, and seeing the passing of the 2 closest people to me in my life. And I was so upset and so traumatized that just I begged God to please take me instead. Don't take them, take me, because I wouldn't be able to bear it if they were gone. And for whatever reasons, and there's a reason for everything in life, for whatever reason, it was time for them to leave this world. And so it happened that way. But boy, Norene, I'll never ever forget that. I'll never forget the vision that I saw in that portal, Stargate, whatever you want to call it. I'll never forget the look of it. And I'll never forget how I felt and how horrible and traumatized and just desperate I was.
Oh, yeah.
Calling on God, please take me instead. There's no way I could bear it without my grandmother and mother. I mean, I love them both so much. So with them leaving this world 2 months and 2 days apart from each other, it was devastating to me, to say the least.
Oh, I bet.
And I had to grow up very, very quickly. And again, I quit school in the 8th grade, lied about my age. I went to work for a construction company. And I worked with some really hardcore men, which made me to be a hardcore man. And I made a lot of mistakes. I drank, I did drugs, hung out on the streets. Again, I did it, and it was all part of my journey. And I can recall praying to God, asking him to take the alcohol and the drugs away from me, the desire. And it was a miracle, Norene, because I was surely and certainly heading for death or prison. And God really took it from me. I was sincere. I didn't want to do that garbage anymore. And God took it from desire for it ever again. And again, the viewers have heard me say this several times, and every time I say it, I mean it. I can never thank God and praise God enough for taking that from me and for all the blessings. I can recall days of being so depressed after those two deaths that I would get up and use the bathroom and come back and sit in a dark room in total silence until it was time to go back to bed again. And so I had no desire for life. I was seeking death. I lived my life on the edge for many, many years. I ended up, I worked many different jobs, including the construction jobs, but I also got involved in the bar business. I was a bar bouncer for 22 years. I could write a book just on those experiences alone. And so I started to, as a child, I was a very good athlete, and I, played baseball and basketball and football. I boxed, I wrestled, and then I got involved in martial arts and then weightlifting, powerlifting, all of these things. And so then I, went into the bar business as a bar bouncer, and that was a very dangerous life, and I've been in many life-threatening situations just in that business alone. But then throughout all of that, I was trying to move closer to God and really trying to make God first in my life. And when I finally was able to do that, my entire life changed. And then God made my purpose very, very clear to me. And my purpose on this earth is for God to work through me to free people from evil and negativity and low frequency and low vibration and curses, hexes, vexes, and spells and things of that nature in order to help people to be able to move forward in life free from those things. So everything that I've described to you was necessary. It was necessary for me to experience in order to be where I'm at right now in helping others.
Mm-hmm. And that's how you became a spiritual warrior?
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I had no intention of that. Back in the bar business days, I thought that's all there was, and that I would probably be in the bar business until I was an old man and couldn't physically do it anymore. But God revealed a new plan to me, and he revealed it to me the closer that I was drawing to him and truly making him first in my life. Then he put a calling on my life, and it was after my wife and I got baptized. After we got baptized, then God put this calling on my life, because when a haunting episode aired, and that aired on September 7th, 2006, and one of the most watched episodes in the history of that series, and it's still shown to this very day. And again, I'm very grateful to Discovery and all the other networks and New Dominion for featuring the story. And that's what put me on the map. And so a lot of people started contacting me from all over the world, asking me for spiritual help. I couldn't do it at that time. In 2006, I was still suffering myself. I was not the spiritual warrior then. I was trying to find my way, but I was on the tail end of coming out of all this garbage. And so I would refer them to other people, and I thought, there's no way, that somebody like me, what in the world can I do? How can I help somebody? At that point in time, I felt intellectually inadequate, spiritually inadequate, someone that would not be qualified in any way, shape, or form to do anything for anybody. Yet, the closer that I drew to God and having a real and authentic relationship with God and truly making him first in my life, and that isn't going around beating people over the head with the Bible and quoting scriptures and saying you're going to hell if you don't do this or do that. I'm talking about a real, authentic relationship with God to where you're truly making him first and trying to do good and right. And the more I did that, the more God was rewarding me. And he also started to put that calling on me that I could be this spiritual warrior for him. And in the beginning, I thought, God must have a heck of a sense of humor if he thinks that somebody like me could go and do this kind of stuff for people, and I resisted that for a long time because I felt that there's no way someone like me, because I had such a low opinion of myself, could possibly do anything like that. Yet, the more my faith grew, the more my confidence grew. And then I started to engage in biblical studies. I spent several years in deep biblical studies, history, ancient history, ancient religions, you name it, I studied it. And so where I said to you that I felt intellectually inadequate at a point, and at one point in my life, God rewarded me with wisdom and knowledge far beyond anything that I could ever imagine in my life, and that propelled me forward, giving me the confidence that I needed in knowing that God truly had called me to do this work. And then I'll never forget, the first family that I went out to, I knew right away that this truly was what God was calling me to do. And it's the greatest thing in life to know what your purpose in life is.
Let's see, Bill, I don't know how much time you have, but we've already been, it's over an hour.
Amazing.
Do you still have any time?
We can go to 10:30 if that's good for you.
Oh. Hey, so do you want to talk about your latest cases, including the possessed boy in San Francisco?
Yeah, and Norene, it's amazing. I kind of want to write a book about it, but I kind of don't, because I have to be careful. I have to be careful in the client confidentiality. So I won't mention names or anything like that. And this is how I describe my mother, being very embarrassed and ashamed by the way she was attacked for all of those years and everything that she went through. A lot of my clients are the same way, to where they really don't want to talk about it. Now, some do, and I've been featured in many of the haunting episodes based on my case files. So there are some clients that are willing to talk about it because they feel that they can help others by sharing their story, and that's a wonderful thing. But I truly understand and respect the clients that don't want to talk about it. They just want to keep it private. So it's a very fine line, and I have to be very careful in not divulging. I would never name names or anything like that, but I will say I've had a lot of cases, to where hundreds of cases I've been involved in with people from all over the world. God's worked through me to help people all over America and in 40 other countries. But the recent cases, and my goodness, I've been more busy than ever. I just got back from Dayton, Ohio, and I have to go out to New York in the morning. And then when I get back, I have to go to St. Thomas in the Virgin Islands to help a family there. It's just unbelievable. It's nonstop. People contact me nonstop. But I praise God for the calling that He's put on my life, and I'm always there for people. And so it's a great feeling. For me, it's the greatest feeling in knowing that God really worked through me to help somebody. But this case that you mentioned did take place in San Francisco. A wonderful family, wonderful young man. And he's in his 20s, super educated, brilliant, classically trained musician, very impressive. This kid is a winner. Yet, that said, he was suffering some severe demonic attack, which was severe oppression heading into the beginning stages of demonic possession. And this boy, I believe, we talked, and he suffered some things in childhood, and I believe that even though it might not manifest for years, at some point it will manifest when some type of event takes place. And whether that is through high trauma or even a severe depression, it can open the doorway for these demonic forces that are already attached due to things that happened in previous years. It will allow them to have something to feed on, to manifest, to launch a powerful attack. And that's exactly what happened to this young man, and his whole life was turned upside down. And it got to the point to where, he was seeing the manifestations, he was being attacked, he was hearing voices. He actually, at one point, he showed me notebooks full of just horrible writings, satanic writings, these satanic poems and drawings of these demonic figures that he was seeing. and had actually gotten to the point to where he sold his soul to the devil.
Why did he sell his soul to the devil?
I think that he had gotten, and this is what happens when people get to a point of stress and fear that they can't manage in any way, shape, or form, to where they just give up. And I can't speak for him, but I really believe that in his mind, he had probably got to that point to where he thought if he just went ahead and sold his soul, then he'd be left alone and it would all stop. And that's not the case. It intensified even more after doing that. Now, the good news is when one sells their soul, that's a bogus contract, because it's not the devil's soul to have or to keep anyway. So he's a created being. Yahweh created all life, including him, and he knows it. So he's the original liar, the original con man, the original salesman. And so when people make these contracts, they can get out of it. And the way out is to call on God and make God first through Jesus Christ, and to break and cancel all these ungodly contracts with the devil. And that's exactly what happened here. And I'm so thankful. It was his mom that saw me on one of the shows, and she reached out. And I was very busy. I'm always busy. But I knew that it was severe, and I made time. I made adjustments in my schedule to fly out there to San Francisco, and not a moment too soon. I'll tell you, if that would have went on for much longer, a tragedy could have occurred out of that. So God worked through me to perform that exorcism, deliverance over him. And I have to tell you, Norene, this took place. Now, I have a way of going about the procedure, carrying out this rite of spiritual deliverance, exorcism. And the only reason I say exorcism is because people identify that. So I'm not Catholic, I'm non-denomination. So that's why I also say spiritual deliverance, because that's what it is. So I don't follow the rite of exorcism through the Catholic way or church. I do it the way that God has instructed me to do it. And that's no knock against them or anybody else. It's just how God has me to do it. So it's always the same in some ways, but there's always a little adjustment per each individual, and that is per instruction from God that I should do this. So in this case, I wanted to baptize this young man after the exorcism deliverance. So I felt that God was instructing me I told him to go ahead and fill the tub up, and then I was going to go in and bless the water, which I did. And then I felt that God was instructing me to perform the exorcism deliverance on him while standing in that blessed water. And that's exactly what I did. So after blessing the water, I asked him to step in, and I started to perform this. And boy, oh boy, his face. And I've seen these things before, believe me. I've seen things, again, that people just wouldn't believe with their own eyes. This young man's face, which he had a normal-looking face, all of a sudden, as I'm binding and casting out these demonic forces, his face grew long.
Oh, my God.
His chin got pointed, and his cheekbones jutted out. So all of a sudden, his face was almost like a V.
Oh.
And then it left through the top of his head. And he told me that he had severe pain in the top of his head while that was taking place, and that it left. When these things leave, sometimes the person will vomit, defecate, a variety of things. I've seen it all. And in this instance, it left through the top of his head.
Oh, my God.
And I'll never, ever forget it. It'll be definitely one of the things that I will file, and I have filed, that would be one of the more alarming things that I've ever seen in the history of my career, and the history of these cases. I've seen it all, but boy, oh boy, that's something that I surely will never forget.
Is he okay now?
Yes, and I talked with him today, as a matter of fact. I talked with him earlier, and he is doing great. However, I have to stay in contact with somebody like this because of his history. of having that level of depression in his life, I feel he's still fragile. So I have to be a source of support for him to make sure that he's staying strong in mind, body, and spirit. So we have him on a program now to where, again, this is a brilliant young man. He's going back to his studies now. He's also an off-the-charts gifted classical musician.
Oh my
So
God.
he's, when this was happening, it was going on for months, but it had escalated, only in those days to where it was, had gotten to that point to where this young man was biting himself, cutting himself. He was biting objects. He was withering around, slithering like a snake on the floor, all these different things.
Oh my God.
But prior to that, again, it started with this severe depression and anxiety and things of that nature. So now it's my job to make sure that he's staying strong in mind, body, and spirit. So he's back to being an expert musician again. He's back to his studies. I told him he needed to start a physical fitness program, which he has. So he's doing everything that I've instructed him to do. And the most important thing that he's doing is now keeping God first in his life. So he's doing everything necessary to be highly successful in life. Now, some people, God can work through me, and that's it. They never have another problem again. They can move forward in a great way, never look back. Other people, it's a process. 2 steps forward, 3 steps backward. It is a process. So it's necessary for me to be involved to make sure that they are moving forward and they never go backward in that pit.
Mm-hmm. Has there ever been a case where it wasn't successful?
The only cases that I recall that were not successful were cases to where people, they wouldn't abandon doing what they were doing. Every possession case, God's worked through me to deliver the person. I praise God for that. However, there are people that had that type of thing happen or severe demonic oppression that had it happen again. And it was because they went back to doing things that I said, do not do. Don't open these doors, because if you do, the devil's coming back with 7 more wicked than the original. So he's sending 7 more wicked demons than the original onto these people if they go back to doing what they were doing in the first place to open these doorways. So I give people a list of instruction, and it's all about keeping God first. And if people don't do that, then they are going to be wide open and susceptible again for severe demonic attack.
Bill, have you ever asked for guidance? Well, I know you talk to God all the time, but before you go in and see these people, do you ask God for a sign? And have you ever seen a vision of God?
I've never seen a vision of our God Yahweh. I would be a liar if I said that. However, I have seen angels. I have seen visions of angels, and I have also seen visions of Yeshua, Jesus the Christ. But I'd be a liar if I said that I saw a vision of God Yahweh. However, I do have this, I don't know how to describe it. It's like an automatic connection. So when somebody contacts me for help, God will start to show me things in my mind. Then I'll also have an automatic knowing, and then there's like a voice that'll speak to me sometimes. So I have all of these things, and I've gone to places before even going into the home, pulling up in front of the house, and God's showing me everything. I'm seeing where the demons are. I'm seeing the whole thing. So this has happened many times. So I always rely on God to give me everything that I need in order to be prepared for battle and in order for him to work through me to conquer these demonic forces.
Wow. Did you want to talk about San Diego, Philadelphia, and Dayton, Ohio? Did you?
Well, the Philadelphia, that was actually, well, I've had some recent ones in Philadelphia, but one that really stands out is the Intenzo case, which,
yes.
They were featured with me on the A Haunting series episode. Their show was called Portal of Doom. And I went back to them they're very dear friends.
Oh.
I love them like family.
Oh, yeah.
Wonderful people. And I went back to them in November of 2018, and they were having some problems again.
Oh, they
and,
were.
I went back, and I did something that I normally do not do, Norene. I normally don't document anything. But on this occasion, I felt that God was leading me in this way, that I said to Chris, I said, I want you to walk behind me as I'm going through this house, and I want you to just take random pictures. Just take them, because God was instructing me to do this, and I knew that there were entities in there. So sure enough, we were going through the house, and we get down to the basement part, and I think it's because of all those items down in that basement, and I pray that Anita gets rid of them at some point. I really do. Biblically, scripturally, we're told, do not bring a cursed object into your home lest you be cursed like it. And so, again, demons can attach to people, places, and things. So I go down there. We get down there, Anita and Chris are with me. And the first thing, I'm drawn over to the fireplace area. And it's this old chimney. It's been there since the 1800s, and it's like this fireplace stove type thing in front of it. God drew me right over to that. And I'm standing in front of it, and all of a sudden, now they're standing, I think Anita was standing to my right, Chris was standing to my left. And all of a sudden, Norene, we hear this moan come out of the block wall from the inside. And this took place after I'm binding and rebuking and casting out, and then you hear this. It was like a combination of a growl and a moaning, groaning type of thing. And so that was the first thing. And then Chris was taking these photographs, and he actually captured this demonic-looking face. It was on the air conditioning, or the heating air conditioning, the ductwork. It was on that. And on the sheet metal, and it was clear. I mean, a very clear image of this demonic-looking face. So again, God guided me to do that, and so I did it. I obeyed what God was putting on me, and sure enough, there was some photographic evidence captured out of it. So, we could go on and on and on and talk on and on and on all night long, and I look forward to coming back the next time. These stories are endless. Again, I can never thank God and praise God enough for working through me in this way. And I want to show, before I leave you, I want to show a copy. This is a copy of the new book.
Oh, yeah, I showed them. Yeah. Hold on, I showed them a copy of your book. Hold on, let me put...
okay.
Yeah, wait a minute, let me put you full screen. Where are you? Oh, my God, where's my... Here, go ahead, I put you full screen.
All right.
Yeah.
That's the new book, Dark Force Revisited. And for anybody out there that would like to order a copy, please visit my website, billbean.net.
Yep.
And I will personally sign it to you if you want it signed, and get it out to you as soon as possible. But I'm really, really pleased about this book in the sense that, this is something that can be a great help to those who may be in need. So, and for anyone out there that is suffering in the ways that I've described, if you feel like you're under some type of demonic attack, or you're cursed, or you feel that somebody's put curses on you, or you're just going through a really, really bad time, don't hesitate. Reach out. I mean, I've had people, one was a very prominent doctor in Indianapolis that was ready to commit suicide, and he was flipping through the TV channels, and he saw me on TV, and he reached out, and God had me to go there to him. Next thing you know, I'm on a plane, and God worked through me to take all that. That man was under voodoo curses. And boy, that's another story for the next show. But it was amazing, and God worked through me to help him. But that's what happens sometimes, Norene, is people get to that point to where they've given up all hope. And so that's what the devil wants, because that way his demonic forces can either totally possess the person, or they can push the person to the point to where they'll want to commit suicide and maybe murder some people before they get to that point. So I've seen it all. I've had every type of client that you can think of, and through it all, God has worked through me to help them, and I praise God for it. So if there's anybody You can email me directly from the website, billbean.net, and either I will get back to you or my assistants will get back to you.
Hey, Bill, do you have time for a couple questions?
Sure.
Okay. I think this is from Royce. Royce Hinman is one of my mods. Did you ever have the house blessed?
The original house?
Yes.
No, I don't think so, Royce. My parents believed in God, but there was no faith-based structure there. We had never attended church as children. We were never baptized. So I think I'm reasonably certain in saying that we didn't have the house originally blessed. However, my step-grandfather, as all this escalated, my stepfather, who was Catholic, he went to his church in the area, in the Glen Burnie area, and they sent a priest out, and that priest had blessed the home, and he was involved with us for the last 16 months that we lived in that home. And so that was the only clergy that was involved with us at that point. It was the last 16 months that we lived there.
Okay. From Gail Geralds. Bill, can you sense evil spirits?
Yes, I could sense divine as well, and I praise God for that. So even though I've had all these evil experiences, I've had many divine experiences, and most of my life today, in my personal life, is certainly divine experiences. I don't have any evil in my personal life. Anything evil that comes my way, by the power of God, I bind and rebuke it and cast it out. I'm not having that. So I was once a victim. I'm now a victor, and I will always be a victor and never be a victim again to anyone or anything, and I praise God for that. And I want that for everybody.
From Beat 3 Airspace. Bill, are you writing or doing any other new books, etc.? Give us a peek.
Well, I'm so busy right now with my travels and helping people that I always have to wait for these little windows. And when I get the little window of opportunity, that's when I sit down. I think my next book is probably, I have a couple books that I have in mind. The next one is probably going to be a totally wonderful, blessed, divine, positive book of like my favorite Psalms or something like that. And it'll be a guidebook as well in helping people to develop and establish their personal connection with God. So that's one book that I have in mind. Another book that I have in mind is getting stories from law enforcement, police officers who have had these types of supernatural encounters while being on duty. So that's another book that I have in mind, and both of these books, in the right time, will come into fruition.
Ooh, I'd love to do a show on that one.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. There's lots of police officers out there that more and more, nowadays, as everything seems to be escalating and this veil is thinning, there are more and more officers out there that are having these types of experiences.
Oh, Bill.
There's a guy that I want to connect you with, Norene. His name is Brian Goslin. He may be listening to this. His wife, Sue, she may be listening. They're wonderful people. They've become friends of mine now. I had, on another show, I had Brian and a very good close friend of mine named Mike Supa. He's like a brother. Mike actually found Brian, and they both live in New York. And Mike is a former police officer as well. They're both in my book, Stranger Than Fiction. And Mike got Brian's story. They had a chance encounter, and he knew about Brian, but he got Brian's story. And Brian, back in 1976 in Whitehall, New York, had a near face-to-face encounter with a 7-foot-tall Bigfoot creature.
Oh my God, no way!
And he was, and he was a Whitehall police officer. And it was not only him, but it was several other officers that had the sighting of the creature as well. So maybe in the future we can put a show together, and I'll connect you with those guys.
Well, you can join us on the show.
I'm sorry?
You can join us. I can have you and him on the show.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah.
Oh,
absolutely.
okay. Oh my God, I'll put this in my notes for next year. I'll do all this next year.
Wonderful.
Wow, that's awesome.
He's a quality guy. He's a credible guy. Again, he's a retired officer now, but at that time, he clearly saw it, and I absolutely believe it. And he's got a story.
Oh, I'd love to do that. Love to. All right, we have another question from Starry Night. Bill, do you think a particular parent carried gifts, curses, or simply had spiritual gifts?
I think both my parents did, but my mother, I think she suffered throughout most of her life for whatever reason. I really believe that she did. Even in childhood, I heard some things that took place in her childhood, and her family moved around a lot in childhood, and her dad suffered. I never met my grandfather, her father. He died in 1957 under tragic circumstances and mysterious circumstances as well. So they moved around a lot as a family, and I was told that she actually, with the family, lived in that very area of Glen Burnie, in that community, Herondale, where the house was, near where the house was, in her teen years. So she had prior exposure to that area before coming back again, with my dad and us. So I do believe, for whatever reasons, my mother suffered greatly for most of her life. My dad also had these gifts, and perhaps, without truly knowing the answer, he did serve in the military for a stint. Maybe something happened there, and maybe he came under some type of observation from external forces, I'll put it that way, and it had an effect on his life as well. So he may have been an individual that went through some type of program and was monitored quite a bit throughout his life. I wouldn't doubt that for 1 second. So whether that was some exposure to other races of alien beings or whatever it may be, I do believe that he had some type of exposure there.
Okay. From Charlotte Wise, do you ever experience now what you experienced in your childhood?
Absolutely not, because if I knew then what I know now, I'm armed and dangerous by the power of God against evil forces. And boy, would that have ever been a different story, if I knew then what I know now, and if I were armed then like I'm armed now. So no, I would never have that in my life again. I praise God for that. I don't boast it. I say it confidently because the fact of the matter is, God truly is first in my life, and God has put a covering over my life, and He's also blessed me with great power. It's His power that's working through me.
Another question from Charlotte. If you feel like you need help, what should you do until the help arrives?
Well, when people contact me for help, and again, I either get back to them or my assistants, Melinda or Mara, will get back. And what I do at that point is I give the person powerful prayers, which these prayers are on my websites, and of course guidance in what they should do, and then I try to get to them as fast as I can. And sometimes people can't afford to bring me to where they are, and then we'll have sessions over the phone or via Skype. I've helped these people in all these other countries via Skype. I mean, it's the next best thing to being there, and so there's no denying the power of God. So no matter what happens, when we're invoking the power of God, His power is going to come through, and it's going to get rid of that garbage. Jesus said, in order to receive, you must believe. So if the person truly believes that God has connected us and God's working through me to help them and to help rid them from this, then it shall be so. And there's nothing the devil can do to stop it.
From Lori Miller, for Bill, how do you know if you are meant to fight demons? I think I am, but I'm scared.
Well, right there, I'm sorry to say, you're not called, because, and not taking anything away from your desire to do it, but when you're doing this kind of stuff, you can't have any fear. Fear is the number one tool of the devil. He's the number one thing that he feeds on. So if you've got fear, forget it. It's over. So if I go into a situation, and believe me, Norene, I've been in situations to where it became physical, and I had to maintain control. And in maintaining control over any and every situation, I can't have any fear. So I've got to walk in faith, strength, and courage, aka warrior mode. I have to be in that warrior mode 24/7, because I have to be somebody to somebody every day of my life. There is no fear.
And from Dust Bunny, how do UFOs and religion relate?
They all relate, and the Bigfoot as well. And I suggest that you get a copy of my book, Stranger Than Fiction, and it explains it all very well on, the UFOs scripturally. In Psalm 68:17, it says the chariots of God are 20,000. Okay? There are 70 or more scriptures in the Bible that mentions UFOs as chariots, flying chariots, pillars of a cloud, clouds, flying tabernacles, rolls, scrolls, all these types of things are mentioned. That is UFO objects that are being mentioned. So why does our God, Yahweh, who created everything, his name is listed 6,823 times in the Bible, replaced with the title of Lord? Wherever you see Lord in caps, that should say Yahweh. Jesus' Hebrew name is Yahshua, which means Yahweh saves. Yahweh saves through him. Why does he use these craft? Why does he have his angels or heavenly hosts to use these craft? I don't know. He hasn't told me, so I don't know. But I do believe that he does use them, and I also believe that Hasatan, Satan the devil, when he was cast out of heaven with a third of the angels, they are the Benai Elohim, the sons of God that were cast down and came down. They came down here in those flying craft, and they took human women, and they produced a hybrid offspring of giants called the Nephilim, who had unnatural sex acts with the beasts of the field, apes, bears, dogs, and other things, and they became the Bigfoot Sasquatch creatures. So they are the offspring of the offspring.
Okay, from Crystal Triplet, how does a person break a curse?
Through the power of God, and it's only by the power of God that those things can be broken. And let me tell you, these curses are real, they can become very powerful, and they can ruin lives. I have seen it. I've also seen the power of God working through me to break this garbage off of people and have them set free and go on to move forward to live a very good and productive life.
And let's see, from VHP and XISIS.
Wow.
I know. Nice name. How long has the original house been standing?
They were built in the 40s. I believe that community was established in 1946.
They remodeled that house, huh, on the outside?
Yeah, well, my dad did. Yeah, my dad did a lot of work to it. And, the house was semi-dilapidated when we got there. My father did a tremendous amount of work to it. And another interesting thing about that house, I've been in many of these Herondale houses, and I've also been back there as the spiritual warrior helping families that were in need. And this is recent as 4 or 5 years ago. In those houses, the walls are very thin. So it would be nothing for me to put my fist or an elbow or a knee or foot through those walls. Yet in our house, the walls were very thick. And I found out why.
Why?
Somebody, the people that lived there before us, had built walls over top of the existing walls in the house.
Why would they do that?
Were they trying to keep something in? I don't know. But boy, oh boy, that's the only house that I've ever been in that area, in that community, that had these they were rock solid, those walls, just unbelievable.
My goodness, what would be the what would be the purpose of every room in the house had another wall built on top of it?
But in the hallway, I was told that the hallway, I don't know about the bedrooms, but the hallway area where that dark brown paneling was, so it was in the living room, it was in the hallway.
Yeah.
I don't think that the bedrooms, I think that they were different. I don't think that they probably had the thinner walls, but the living room, the dining room area, the hallway, those walls were rock solid.
Oh my God. Do you have any information on the people that your parents bought the house from?
Other than the only information that I know of, and again, I can't verify it, I don't know, but they were told that a lady had died in my sister's room in that back bedroom. So is it true? I don't know. I can't verify it, but that's the only information aside from the walls being built on top of walls. And I didn't find that out until a good friend of mine named John Romine, who's a retired police officer who's now an investigator, he went back and interviewed the people in the area that knew the people before, us being there.
Wow.
And found out that, they in fact had built these walls on top of the pre-existing walls.
Very interesting.
Yeah, I've never heard of anything like
Me
that
either.
before. But it absolutely makes sense to me because, again, those walls were just rock solid.
Oh, my goodness. Might have
Boy,
to...
did the time go fast, Norene.
I know. Wait a minute. I got a couple more for you. Don't... Wait. Okay.
All right.
From Hen House. I have never been baptized. Will I be okay when I die?
I would strongly suggest getting baptized ASAP. It is very important. The baptism is about A, renewing your everlasting covenant with God, and B, it's the final blessing and purification part of being truly blessed, sealed, sanctified, purified, cleansed, and made holy before God. So I would urge you to get that baptism ASAP. I've baptized hundreds of people in their own bathtubs, swimming pools, creeks, you name it.
All right. What? Okay. From adorable, deplorable, maybe. Do you believe it's dangerous to play with the Ouija board?
Absolutely, because again, so when we pray, if people hear me say, by the mighty power of Yahweh, again, that's God's name, so I use God's name, by the mighty power of Yahweh in Jesus' name, I bind and rebuke all evil and I cast it out. Well, I've now invoked the power of God through that prayer. So if people are playing with those types of Ouija boards and things of that nature, well, you're invoking the power of the devil. You're opening the doorway for the devil to come right through. And for those who would disagree and say, oh, well, no, that's only spirits or whatever, let me tell you something. The devil is very clever, and he can disguise himself, and his demons have the same capabilities. They can disguise themselves as anything. And all they need is an invitation through invocation. And that is invocation. So when you're playing with those types of things, you're literally inviting the devil and his demons in.
Okay. Oh gosh. Let me see. I am Alpha. Have you had any demons try to kill you or make you have a serious accident?
Yes.
Really?
Absolutely. We talked about some of these things earlier, and yet each and every time God saved my life. I remember a time, I want to say it was probably the year 2003, I was working as a bouncer in this bar in the Baltimore area, and it was a Wednesday night. It was a slower night, and I had gone standing back at the DJ booth talking to the DJ, Bob, and we heard pop, pop, these loud pops. I knew what they were right away. Now, where the DJ booth was located, the wall behind where the DJ is standing, that's a dividing wall there between the booth and the men's room. And so I knew what it was, and it was coming from there. And it all happened so fast that it was like in slow motion. I raced around from where I was standing and went around to the bathroom. Now, interestingly enough, this bathroom door had a spring on it that, if you push that door, it would alert. You'd know if somebody, would make a loud noise. Yet on this occasion, I go, and it was like God was slowing me down. So I'm rushing to this, but yet now I'm feeling like I'm being slowed down. So I ease into this now, and I ease the door open, and it did not make a sound. That's the only time, and I worked at that place for, 5 years. It was the only time that I ever heard that door open it where it didn't make that sound from the spring. And I eased that door open, and all of this debris was coming out of the ceiling. There was a gunman. He had the gun to the back of the head of this other guy in front of a urinal. And I don't know what was going on there, if it was a drug deal that went bad or whatever, I don't know. But I recall easing back out, and this little busboy comes over to me, and I mouth to him, call 911, and now I'm taking my arms and waving to get the people away, to get them out of harm's way now. This guy fired 2 shots, and now he's got the gun to the back of this guy's head. So I trying to get the people to leave, and so now the door opens. So I'm standing by the door opens now, the gunman's coming out, and he's behind the victim. And as the door opens, I swept his feet out and then disarmed him. And that gun, that pistol, was cocked and ready to fire again. And boy, oh boy, I'll tell you, God was with me that night, and I praise him for nobody getting hurt, because I truly thought when I first eased that door open, I could feel the blood leaving my head. I thought somebody's going to die here, and it very well could be me, because, I can't allow this to happen. And so God really worked through me to, do what I had to do in order to disarm the gunman and keep everybody safe.
I have one last question for you, because it's almost 2 hours of this. From Mary H. Your thoughts on tarot cards?
I'm not a fan, I'm sorry to say. And look, I love everybody. I have nothing against anybody. But we have to be very, very careful with these types of things, because, again, it goes right back to what I said about invocation. We have to be very guarded and very careful that we're not doing anything to invite the devil in, because once he comes in, he's going to kick the door open, and these demons are coming with him, and there's going to be trouble and misery and attack. Nothing but until somebody like me comes along, God working through me to get rid of it.
God. What about seances, Bill? Are they dangerous?
It's the same thing, and look, I'm not criticizing anybody. People are free to do whatever they want to do. God gave us free will. And that's why there's an adversary to mankind in the first place, based on that free will. So we have to be super careful, because there's a consequence for the action. So if we do something that is not of God or not pleasing to God, there's going to be a consequence for that. And that's why this adversary to mankind exists. That's why God doesn't destroy him, because he serves a purpose. So we have to be very, very careful. And this, in my opinion, falls under invocation. So I would definitely not do it. I wouldn't recommend it. It's very dangerous.
Okay, I have a question. And I want to know about communicating with spirits using your voice recorder. And yeah, I know you're shaking your head.
Yeah, I wouldn't do it.
I know you're familiar with Debbie and Mark Constantino, and in 2012, I aired several shows with them, and I remember one of the shows, and when we would talk with them they would be on Skype. They were hearing voices as they were talking to us on the show. Yeah. And she would get very, very upset. And they had told us that they're having a terrible time in their home, because that's all they do. That's all they do. They even talk to spirits in their house, not just on the shows when they were on Ghost Adventures, but it was a constant thing with them. And Debbie especially, talking to spirits with her voice recorder. And Debbie was actually scared. She was actually getting scared and said, and we said, why don't you just stop? And she said, yeah, I know, we need to stop. And then what happened? A couple years ago, look what happened.
The tragedy that occurred. And it's very sad. I like them both, and I consider them both friends. And very, very sad. And so we see the end result. So I would highly recommend not to do it, because it's all part of invocation. Do you really think you're going to get the truth out of... So people say to me, well, do you talk to demons? No, I do not. I take power and authority over them by the mighty power of Yahweh in Jesus' name. There's no dialogue with... Do you think that, if the way you and I are conversing right now, if you were to have a dialogue, or tried to have a dialogue like that with a demonic entity, do you really think they're going to tell you the truth? Yeah. They're not going to give you anything. They're going to give you everything that they want to give you in order to mislead you, to put you in harm's way, but they're not going to give you anything. So this is why we have to take power and authority over those things by the power of God.
So, Bill, do you think that when people do use their voice recorder and they play it back and they get responses to their question, are they always demonic?
I have to say yes, and I'll tell you why. Because again, and this goes, I've had a lot of investigators still do come to me for help. They've been exposed to things like you're describing and other things. And man, all of a sudden their life just starts to unravel. And that is because even though they're getting some information, this is a doorway that is now opened. And with that doorway open, those demonic forces can come in and create havoc. I'm not saying this against anybody. I'm just saying it, giving my honest opinion about it, and based on my experiences, and certainly based on my case files now.
Okay, I have another question, and I have another question. I know somebody who desperately wants a wish to come true, and this person watches Joel Osteen all the time. Listen to him on the radio or on YouTube, whatever. And this Joel Osteen says you can wish your favor, talk to the whatever, the universe, whatever, for your favor, and it eventually will come true. But you just have to bide your time, and you'll get answers. So this particular person for 3 years has been asking for a sign. They got a sign. 3 clouds appeared. They said 3 clouds appeared in the sky. Because this person asked, how long will it take for me to get my wish? And this person said, you're not going to believe it, and I didn't have a camera with me, but 3 clouds formed in the sky. And then a little while later, they maybe 6 months or something, they would ask, please, I want another sign. When will my wish come true? Can you give me another sign? And they got more signs. And then another sign was, put a cross in the dirt here. Put a cross in the dirt for me. And then when they looked down, there was a stick formed into a cross. And every time this person asked for a sign, they would get a sign. But their wish never came.
The difference is that when we're talking to God, and let me tell you, God has worked more miracles for me in my life, I've lost count. And I have that. I'm going to give you another example, and I haven't even talked about this. My wife's the only one who knows about this. Unfortunately, a few days ago, I broke one of my toes. Got up in the middle of the night, and I hit something, and it broke one of my toes, and I was in a lot of pain, and I had to travel. And so I had to drive. I mostly fly everywhere, but there are times, if I can, within 8 hours, I'll drive, and I had to drive to Dayton, Ohio. I prayed, and I asked God, please take this from me. And I said, Father, I know you're going to take this from me. And I told my wife, I said, by the time it's time for me to make this drive, this pain is going to be gone. And I'm telling you right now, before God, that pain was gone. And so that is the power of God. So we can invoke the power of God, and this comes through prayer. This also comes through an authentic relationship with God, truly making him and keeping him first. God has blessed me. My life's 50 times more blessed than it's ever been cursed. And I've had great sufferings, but I have great peace now and a great life now. And I praise God for that. So here's the difference. When we are taking things to God, and we're asking God for help, and we're asking God for miracles, God will provide for us. Furthermore, God works a miracle for us every day of our life. It's the miracle of life. So when we open our eyes every day, he has worked a miracle for us. And I thank him and praise him for each and every day of my life. So if we are keeping it with God, and keeping connected with God in that way, yes, supernatural things will happen. Supernatural good, supernatural divine. But if we're going the other way, and my opinion, nothing against anybody, but my opinion is when you're going the other way, well, that's seeking darkness, and that's opening the doorway for the devil, who mimics everything that God does, and he puts a vulgar twist on it to manifest and create curses.
So this person wouldn't know if it's the demon or the devil replying to them?
It sounds to me like they were having divine experiences. If they were truly taking it to God and, asking God these things,
she did.
It sounds to me like God was giving a response.
Oh, okay.
So that's the difference. When we're taking things in the divine and we are taking it to God and before God, he will give us answers. He will give us a response. He will bless us. He will help us. But if we're going away from God, there is no man on this earth, not even the devil and his minions, that can do for us what God can do for us.
Okay.
So when we take it to him, keeping him first, and we trust in him, good things happen.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha, honey. All right. So everybody, don't forget, visit Bill Bean's website. They can buy the books off your website, right?
Yes, and I would prefer that you did go there to billbean.net and purchase them there, and that way I can sign them to you. So, whoever's making a purchase, just tell me who I'm signing it to, and we'll get it signed and sent out to you. And again, if there's anybody in need, don't hesitate to contact me at billbean.net, and if I don't get back to you, my assistants will, and we will get you some help.
Oh, awesome, Bill. Thank you. I remember the last time you came on the show, you only had an hour.
Yeah.
You had to go.
Well, here we are now, 2 hours.
And you
went
made
like
up
that.
for it.
Yeah,
2
I can't
hours.
wait to come back again, Norene. Thank you so much for having me on, and God bless you, you and your family and everybody out there that's watching.
Thank you so much, Bill. We love you, and it's always a pleasure having you on the show, and you're welcome back anytime. And please write that book with the police officers. I will wait.
I promise you I will. And much love, and God bless you, my dear. And until the next time, just be blessed.
Thank you. You too, Bill. Thank you so much. Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Oh, God. What'd you think, guys? It was a great show, huh? I enjoyed that. I always enjoy Bill when he comes on the show, and I hope he writes that book. Oh, my God, what a great show that will be. And I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. My next show is until October 10th. I'm really looking forward to that next show that we're doing, because it's about this man that lived in Florida, and he captured the weirdest images, the weirdest things, aliens, and oh my God, we're gonna do so anyway, that show will be on the 10th of October, and it's going to be a really good show. I think I'm going to do a 3-part series. He's got too much information to do it in one show, so we'll probably do 3 episodes on that show. So everybody, I want to thank you so much for being here. Don't forget, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, I'd really appreciate it. If you're on Facebook, I've started another, besides the Do You Believe page, also a Paranormal Zone. I have actually 2 of them. So if you go there and give it a like, I'd appreciate it. So I know, oh, good, Crystal Triplet, you're back. Oh, my goodness. Oh, wow, I'm so glad you came back. Crystal Triplet, Unique Annie, and of course, Royce Hinman, our mods. And I know Cassandra had to leave. She had a migraine, and I'm really sorry, Cassandra. I hope you feel better, honey. And please, guys, if it wasn't for our mods, you wouldn't have the great chat room that you guys have. And I really appreciate them helping me out. And please pray for Royce. He also has had migraines and wasn't feeling well this week, but he came and helped out at the show. So please keep your prayers for Royce as well. So let's do some shout outs. Okay, Royce, what do you got for me? Oh, what? Oh my God. What? Oh, wow, the super chat? Holy cow, super chat money? Oh my God, you guys. Really? Oh my God, thank you so much. Crystal Triplet, B3 Airspace, Unique Annie. Oh my God, Andrew and his trucking gnomes. Wow, thanks. Chippetary. Again, Chippetary and Jenny. Oh my God, you guys, thank you so much. You could, oh wow, that's awesome. Always, send me, you could go to my website and you can make sure that you signed up for the show reminders, but you know what else? I think they're all going into spam. I sent out 250 and only like 60 are clicking on it, so I don't think you're getting it. And I know if you subscribe to the channel, you'll get notification. And you can always send me a message of a guest that you'd like to have at Paranormal Zone Paranormal Zone TV at gmail.com. Very easy. Paranormal Zone TV at gmail.com. And send me suggestions for shows. Now, I'm winding down because I'm having Christmas this year. My daughter isn't having it. We've got 30 people coming for Christmas, and I'm going to be crazy around here. I think I only have one show the first week of December, and then that's it until January. So let me do some shout outs, okay? I guess, let's see, B3 Airspace, Chipateri, I know starring, oh, there you go, Dust Bunny, Gail Gerald's I Am Alpha, Lori Miller, Mary H., Rhonda Yowell, Royce Hinman, Crystal Triplet, Unique Annie, Spencer Hicks, Starry Night, Tina Genovese, Truther, Girl Karen, VHP, and what the hell? Vix V Hypnixis? Is that what that is? That's a first. Annie Boleen. Let's see, who else wants a shout out? Lori Miller, Nancy. Anybody else want a shout out? We had a nice crowd. Tammy Heitzman. I don't know if Carl White's there. We didn't. Tollcross was in earlier. Tollcross, are you still there? Anybody else want to shout out before I close out? It was a 2-hour show tonight. It's a long show. Anybody else want to shout out? Thank you again so much, everyone. Thank you so much for the super chat money. And thank you all for being here. I really appreciate it. I just love having you guys here. Aaron Spellman. You guys like the show? I'm glad. I love Bill Bean. I'm going to have to do a show list. I think this is the 5th show I've aired with him. Fran Perez. Anybody else want to shout out? Charlotte Wise. Okay, anybody else? I'm Truth Girl Karen. I got that. Let's see. We had what? No, I didn't. No, I'm still here, Royce. I didn't crash. You guys see me, right? Group hugs. Yes, Unique Annie, group hugs. Crystal Triplet, it's so nice to have you back. Very nice to have you back. So now I have 4 mods. Crystal Triplet, Unique Annie, of course my Royce Hinman, and Cassandra 50. Awesome. Fairy Queen. What time is it now? Oh my goodness. I got a lot to do tonight and tomorrow. Oh, I'm exhausted. Okay, guys. I'll have some good shows for next year, too. Oh, you see me. Oh, okay. Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to go now, okay? So, love you guys. See you back here on the 10th. You know, every once in a while, I'm thinking about doing my own show on a Sunday. Because there's some topics that I can do and I don't need a guest. I don't know, I might think about it. So when I have a chance, especially when the weather's bad and it's cold. And anyway, so, okay, yeah. Oh, and don't forget, October 24th, Royce Hinman. Royce is going to do a show with me. We're going to do, he captures images from my shows, and then because he sees things. He's very gifted, and he sees things in those pictures, and I'm looking forward to that as well. Okay, everybody, I'm going now, okay? So love you guys. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you on October 10th, okay? Love you guys. Thanks. Good night. Love you. Hold on.